There is a force in the universe so powerful, so transformative, so absolute in its ability to change lives that the great masters of antiquity called it the secret of secrets. Napoleon Hill, the man who devoted his entire life to uncovering the principles of success through studying the brightest minds of his time, discovered that behind every great achievement, every monumental conquest, every transformed life, there was a common denominator that transcended techniques, strategies, and methods. That denominator was prayer. But we're not talking about prayer as you may have learned it, mechanical or ritualistic. It's not about repeating empty words or following memorized formulas without understanding. Napoleon Hill discovered something profoundly revolutionary about prayer, something that most people never grasp. And it is exactly this that will forever change your perspective from this moment on. Prayer, according to Hill, is not a desperate plea to the universe made on one's knees in times of despair. True prayer is an exact science, a proven method of connecting with the infinite intelligence that permeates all things. Think for a moment about the men and women Hill studied during more than 20 years of intensive research. Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Theodore Roosevelt. These titans of industry and history were not merely lucky or privileged individuals. They possessed a secret, a master key that opened doors which remained eternally closed to others. And when Hill delved deeply into their lives, beyond the official biographies and the stories told to the public, he discovered that all of them, without exception, practiced a form of prayer that was both profoundly spiritual and rigorously scientific. Prayer, as Hill describes it, is the only known means by which you can translate your deepest desires into their physical equivalent. It is the tool through which you can make conscious contact with the creative force of the universe and align your individual will with the universal will. But here's what most people don't understand. Effective prayer requires preparation. It requires that you first cultivate certain mental and emotional qualities. Without them, your words are nothing but empty sounds lost in the wind. Napoleon Hill taught that before you can pray effectively, you must have faith. And not blind or irrational faith, but that burning, unwavering faith he identified as one of the 17 fundamental principles of success. This faith is not passive hope. It is absolute certainty, a conviction that penetrates every cell of your being, assuring you that what you desire is already yours in the mental and spiritual realm, and that it's only a matter of time before it manifests in the physical world. Imagine for a moment the process by which a seed becomes a majestic tree. When you plant that seed in the ground, you cannot see it. You cannot touch the tree it will become. Yet you have absolute faith that if you water it, give it sunlight, protect and nourish it, it will inevitably become what is already encoded in its genetic blueprint. Prayer works exactly the same way. When you pray with true faith, you are planting mental seeds in the fertile soil of infinite intelligence. And those seeds, when properly nurtured through repetition, emotion, and unwavering belief, will inevitably grow and manifest in your physical life. Hill discovered something absolutely fascinating during his research. Great achievers did not separate their prayers from their definite goals. In fact, they transformed their goals into prayers, and their prayers into goals. They wrote their desires with crystal clarity, not as vague hopes or nebulous fantasies, but as specific, detailed statements of what they wanted to achieve. Then they turned these statements into powerful affirmations, repeating them to themselves in a state of deep emotion and concentration. Do you see the difference between saying, "I hope things get better," and declaring with absolute conviction, "I am grateful because the infinite abundance of the universe is flowing into my life now," manifesting as financial prosperity, vibrant health, and harmonious relationships? The first is weak and wavering hope. The second is a prayer in the truest sense that Hill discovered, a prayer that doesn't ask but declares, a prayer that doesn't beg but affirms, a prayer that doesn't wait but recognizes what is already true in the invisible realm and is now becoming visible. Napoleon Hill taught that the most powerful prayer is the one accompanied by intense emotion. And here lies another crucial secret that most people never understand. Your words, no matter how beautiful or well-constructed, have no power unless they are charged with genuine feeling. It is emotion that gives life to your words. It is feeling that magnetizes your thoughts and turns them into attractive forces, capable of reorganizing the external circumstances of your life. Think of a moment in your life when you desired something so intensely that your heart raced just thinking about it. Perhaps the love of someone special, a professional achievement, or the healing of an illness. Do you remember how your entire being vibrated with that desire? That intense vibration is what Hill called emotionalized faith, and it is the secret ingredient that transforms an ordinary prayer into an irresistible force of manifestation. When Henry Ford prayed, and yes, Hill confirmed that Ford practiced his own form of daily prayer. He didn't merely mumble empty words. Ford visualized, with absolute emotional intensity, his automobiles being produced by the thousands, imagined the assembly lines running perfectly, saw in his mind's eye American families driving his cars with joy and freedom. He felt gratitude for having accomplished that vision as if it were already real. And through this daily practice of visualized, emotionally charged prayer, he aligned his conscious mind with his subconscious mind, and both with the infinite intelligence of the universe. Hill discovered that there is an ideal moment for prayer, a specific mental state in which the mind is most receptive and capable of contacting higher power. That moment is right before falling asleep and immediately upon waking up. In these transitions between consciousness and sleep, your critical conscious mind is temporarily weakened, and your subconscious mind, that vast repository of creative power that operates 24 hours a day without rest, becomes more accessible. Imagine your conscious mind as a gate that controls access to a vast and powerful kingdom, your subconscious mind. During the day, this gate is tightly guarded by your reason, your doubts, your fears, and your limiting beliefs. But in those moments between wakefulness and sleep, this gate opens slightly, creating a window of opportunity for you to plant mental seeds directly into the fertile soil of your subconscious, without interference from your critical mind. The masters Hill studied took advantage of these moments religiously. They created nightly rituals in which, just before sleep, they reviewed their main goals, recited their most powerful affirmations, visualized their desires as already fulfilled, and then surrendered it all to infinite intelligence with absolute gratitude and trust. They literally fell asleep in a state of prayer, and their subconscious minds worked throughout the night, reorganizing their thoughts, attracting creative ideas, and tuning them to the opportunities and resources needed for the manifestation of their desires. In the morning, the ritual was repeated. Before allowing the external world to invade their consciousness, before checking messages or worrying about problems, they spent the first minutes of their waking day in deep prayer, reaffirming their goals, renewing their faith, and programming their minds to see opportunities instead of obstacles throughout the day ahead. Napoleon Hill also emphasized something that might seem paradoxical at first glance: gratitude in advance. He taught that you must give thanks for the realization of your desires before they physically manifest. This is not self-deception or shallow positive thinking. It is a profound principle of mental tuning. When you give thanks in advance, you are declaring to the universe and to your own subconscious mind that you have absolute faith in the manifestation of what you desire. You are acting from the principle that you have already received, and that mental attitude of certainty is magnetic. Think again of the great achievers. Thomas Edison, while working on his inventions, did not pray for success with doubt and fear of failure. He gave thanks in advance for the solution he knew would come, for the discovery he knew he would make. Even after thousands of failed experiments with the electric light bulb, he maintained his attitude of advanced gratitude because his faith was not based on external evidence but on an unshakable inner certainty. Hill also discovered that the most powerful prayer is not one that selfishly asks for things for oneself, but one that seeks the greater good, one that includes the benefit of others and aligns with a purpose that transcends personal interest. He observed that true masters of success always linked their personal desires to a larger mission of serving humanity. Andrew Carnegie did not pray merely for personal wealth. He prayed for the ability to create jobs, build libraries, and raise the standard of living for thousands of people. There is something within the fabric of the universe that responds more powerfully when your desires are aligned with the collective good. It is as if infinite intelligence recognizes those who seek not only to take, but to give, not only to receive, but to contribute. And when you pray with this expanded awareness, when you include in your prayers the desire to serve, to contribute, to make a difference in the lives of others, you access reservoirs of power that remain closed to those who pray only from the limited ego. Hill spoke of what he called the mastermind, the principle by which two or more minds working in perfect harmony create a third, invisible, but tremendously powerful mind. He discovered that collective prayer, when made by people united in common purpose and shared faith, exponentially multiplies the power of manifestation. It is not a simple addition of power, but a multiplication. Two people praying together in perfect harmony do not have twice the power, they have 10 times more. Three people have 100 times more. This explains why the great movements of history, the great social transformations, always involved groups of people united by a common vision and shared purpose. Now let me share with you one of Napoleon Hill's most profound teachings about prayer, something that can completely revolutionize your practice. Hill taught that there is a fundamental difference between praying and worrying. Most people, without realizing it, spend more time worrying than praying. And worry, he discovered, is simply negative prayer. It uses the same mental and emotional principles that make prayer powerful, but directed toward what you don't want instead of what you do want. When you worry, you are visualizing undesirable outcomes with intense emotion. You are mentally repeating scenes of failure, loss, and pain. You are focusing all your mental and emotional energy on images of disaster. And your subconscious mind and infinite intelligence do not distinguish between a positive prayer and a negative one. They simply respond to the intensity and persistence of your dominant thoughts and emotions. If you spend 10 minutes a day praying for success, but 3 hours worrying about failure, you are effectively praying for failure most of the time. Hill insisted that you must become a vigilant guardian of your thoughts. You must develop what he called mental self-discipline, the ability to recognize negative thoughts the moment they arise and immediately replace them with thoughts aligned with your desires. This is not easy. It requires constant practice and relentless attention, but it is absolutely essential if you want your prayers to be effective. Imagine your mind as a garden. Each thought is a seed. Prayers are seeds of beautiful flowers and nourishing fruits. Worries are seeds of poisonous weeds. If you plant both, which do you think will grow faster? The weeds, of course, they grow easily and without care. Likewise, negative thoughts sprout spontaneously if you do not deliberately cultivate positive ones. That is why prayer cannot be a 5-minute isolated event in your day. It must become a constant mental attitude, a state of consciousness you maintain throughout your entire day. Napoleon Hill also made a crucial distinction between prayer and meditation, though he recognized that both are complementary and essential. Prayer, he explained, is the process of speaking to infinite intelligence, expressing your desires, your gratitude, your aspirations. Meditation is the process of listening, creating enough mental silence for higher guidance to reach you. Many people pray constantly but never meditate, and thus they miss the very answers infinite intelligence is trying to send them. Think of a phone conversation where you talk non-stop but never listen to what the other person is saying. You might be asking important questions, but if you never stop to hear the answers, the conversation is meaningless. The same is true of prayer. You must balance your periods of active prayer, when you express your desires and affirmations, with periods of receptive meditation, when you simply quiet your mind and allow higher guidance to flow into your consciousness. Hill discovered that the greatest ideas, the most creative solutions, and the most transformative insights experienced by great achievers came during these moments of meditative listening. Edison had his famous ritual of sitting in a comfortable chair while holding steel balls in his hands. He allowed his mind to relax completely, entering a state between wakefulness and sleep. When he began to truly doze off, the balls would fall, making noise and waking him. And in those transitional moments, he often received the insights he sought for his inventions. This was neither superstition nor luck. It was a deliberate technique for accessing infinite intelligence through receptive meditation. Hill taught this technique, with variations, to thousands of people who applied his principles. You don't need steel balls or elaborate rituals. You simply need to create regular moments in your day when you deliberately quiet your mind, set aside all worries and distractions, and open yourself to receive higher guidance. One of the most fascinating aspects of Hill's teaching on prayer is his insistence that true prayer requires action. He harshly criticized those who prayed for miracles, but did nothing to create the conditions for those miracles to manifest. He said that faith without works is dead, citing ancient wisdom. Infinite intelligence responds to those who demonstrate through their actions that they are committed to their desires. If you pray for financial prosperity but continue to spend irresponsibly, if you pray for health but neglect your body through poor diet and lack of exercise, if you pray for harmonious relationships but continue treating others with disrespect and selfishness, your prayers are hypocritical. True prayer creates an internal change that naturally expresses itself in external behavioral change. Hill told the story of a man who fervently prayed for a business opportunity that would change his life. One day, that opportunity appeared in the form of an invitation to a business meeting in another city. But the man refused to go because it was a rainy day and he didn't like driving in the rain. He kept praying for the opportunity that had already arrived and that he himself had refused. This story perfectly illustrates the principle that prayer must be accompanied by readiness to act when opportunities present themselves. Infinite intelligence responds to your prayers not necessarily by miraculously placing what you want in your hands, but by opening doors, creating opportunities, bringing the right people into your life, inspiring creative ideas, and strengthening your courage and determination. But you must be alert to recognize these answers and ready to act on them, even when they appear in unexpected forms or require you to step out of your comfort zone. Hill also taught something profoundly liberating about failure and how it relates to prayer. He said that every apparent failure, every closed door, every plan that doesn't work out is actually a form of guidance from infinite intelligence. It's the universe's way of saying, "Not this way, there's a better one." Most people interpret such obstacles as signs that their prayers aren't being heard or that they don't deserve success. But the masters Hill studied interpreted every obstacle as redirection, as an opportunity to learn and refine their approach. Edison failed thousands of times before creating a functional light bulb. But he didn't see each failed experiment as an unanswered prayer. He saw each one as a valuable response. Not this material, not this configuration, not this design. And he continued praying, not with despair or doubt, but with gratitude for each lesson learned and renewed faith that the right solution would eventually reveal itself. And it did, changing the world forever. Can you see the liberating power of this perspective? It means you never truly fail as long as you maintain your faith and continue praying and acting. Every result, whether desired or not, is feedback. Every experience is part of the refining process that is inevitably leading you toward the manifestation of your desires. The only true failure is to give up, to stop praying, to stop believing, to stop acting. Napoleon Hill made a point of emphasizing that effective prayer is not something you learn in a day or master in a week. It is a skill developed over time through consistent practice. It's like building a muscle or learning to play a musical instrument. The first efforts may feel awkward or unproductive. You may not feel anything special. Your mind may wander. Your faith may waver. But if you persist, if you practice daily with sincerity and dedication, something extraordinary begins to happen. Gradually, you develop what Hill called cosmic consciousness, a growing sense of connection with something greater than yourself. Your prayers begin to flow more naturally. Your faith strengthens, not because you're trying to force it, but because you're accumulating personal evidence through small manifestations that confirm the process is working. You begin to notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that are, in truth, infinite intelligence orchestrating events in your favor. Hill insisted that this transformation was not mystical or supernatural in the sense of violating natural laws. On the contrary, it was the natural result of working in harmony with higher mental and spiritual laws that most people ignore or violate. It's like learning to use electricity. Electricity has always existed, but only those who understood its laws and learned to work with them could harness its tremendous power. The same is true of the power of prayer. It has always been available, but only those who understand its principles and apply them correctly experience its extraordinary results. Let me now share with you one of the most revolutionary concepts Hill taught about prayer. The idea that you are always praying, whether you are aware of it or not. Your dominant thoughts, habitual emotions, repeated words, and recurring mental images, all of these constitute your real and constant prayer to the universe. The question is not if you are praying, but what the content of your prayers is. If you spend your day complaining, criticizing, fearing, doubting, and worrying, you are constantly praying for more situations that justify complaint, criticism, fear, doubt, and worry. If you spend your day giving thanks, Praising, trusting, believing, and expecting good. You are constantly praying for more situations that justify gratitude. Praise, trust, belief, and positive expectation. You cannot separate your formal prayer life from your daily mental and emotional life. They are one and the same. This means that the real work of effective prayer is not only the minutes you spend in formal prayer, morning and night, although those moments are crucial as anchors and focal points. The real work is monitoring and directing your thoughts and emotions throughout the entire day. It's catching every negative thought before it takes root. It's redirecting every destructive emotion into constructive channels. It's speaking words that align with your desires instead of words that contradict them. Hill observed that most people undermine their own prayers through their negative self-talk and careless daily conversations. They pray in the morning for prosperity and then spend the rest of the day saying, "I never have enough money," or "Things are really tough financially." They pray for health and then spend the day complaining about their physical problems and predicting they'll get worse. They pray for harmonious relationships and then spend the day criticizing and judging those around them. Do you see the devastating contradiction? Your casual words are canceling your formal prayers. Your habitual emotions are sabotaging your carefully crafted affirmations. And the subconscious mind and infinite intelligence respond not to your temporary intentions, but to your dominant and persistent patterns. That's why Hill insisted so strongly on the necessity of constant mental self-discipline. It's not optional, it's absolutely essential. He taught a simple but powerful technique for developing this self-discipline. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, feeling, or saying something that contradicts your declared desires, stop immediately. Acknowledge the thought or feeling without judgment, but don't feed it. Then deliberately replace it with its constructive opposite. If you find yourself thinking, "I'll never achieve this," stop and consciously replace it with, "I'm on the right path, and every day I'm getting closer to my goal." Do this consistently without exception, and gradually you'll be reprogramming your mind to pray constantly in the direction of your desires. Napoleon Hill also made fascinating discoveries about the role of imagination in effective prayer. He identified two types of imagination: synthetic imagination, which reorganizes existing ideas and concepts into new combinations, and creative imagination, which produces something truly new and original through direct connection with infinite intelligence. The most powerful prayer, he taught, engages both kinds of imagination. When you pray, you shouldn't just repeat words mechanically. You must create vivid, detailed mental images of your desires already manifested. Use your synthetic imagination to build specific scenes of what your life will look like when your prayers are answered. See yourself living in that new reality. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, experience the emotions. The more real you can make that imaginative experience, the more powerful your prayer becomes. But Hill went even further. He said that during a state of deep prayer, you must also open yourself to creative imagination, allowing inspirations and original insights to flow from infinite intelligence into your consciousness. Often, while visualizing your desires, entirely new and unexpected ideas will arise in your mind. Ideas you could never have conceived through ordinary logic. These are direct gifts from infinite intelligence, answers to your prayers in the form of creative guidance. Edison, Ford, Carnegie, and all the great innovators Hill studied reported such experiences. They would be in deep prayer, fully focused on their desires and challenges, when suddenly a complete solution would flash into their awareness, often appearing as if from nowhere. They hadn't reasoned their way to it step by step. It simply arrived, complete and perfect, as if someone had placed it directly into their minds. Even when they appear in unexpected forms or require you to step out of your comfort zone. Hill also taught something profoundly liberating about failure and how it relates to prayer. He said that every apparent failure, every closed door, every plan that doesn't work out is actually a form of guidance from infinite intelligence. It's the universe's way of saying, "Not this way, there's a better one." Most people interpret such obstacles as signs that their prayers aren't being heard or that they don't deserve success. But the masters Hill studied interpreted every obstacle as redirection, as an opportunity to learn and refine their approach. Edison failed thousands of times before creating a functional light bulb. But he didn't see each failed experiment as an unanswered prayer. He saw each one as a valuable response. Not this material, not this configuration, not this design. And he continued praying, not with despair or doubt, but with gratitude for each lesson learned and renewed faith that the right solution would eventually reveal itself. And it did, changing the world forever. Can you see the liberating power of this perspective? It means you never truly fail as long as you maintain your faith and continue praying and acting. Every result, whether desired or not, is feedback. Every experience is part of the refining process that is inevitably leading you toward the manifestation of your desires. The only true failure is to give up, to stop praying, to stop believing, to stop acting. Napoleon Hill made a point of emphasizing that effective prayer is not something you learn in a day or master in a week. It is a skill developed over time through consistent practice. It's like building a muscle or learning to play a musical instrument. The first efforts may feel awkward or unproductive. You may not feel anything special. Your mind may wander. Your faith may waver. But if you persist, if you practice daily with sincerity and dedication, something extraordinary begins to happen. Gradually, you develop what Hill called cosmic consciousness, a growing sense of connection with something greater than yourself. Your prayers begin to flow more naturally. Your faith strengthens, not because you're trying to force it, but because you're accumulating personal evidence through small manifestations that confirm the process is working. You begin to notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that are, in truth, infinite intelligence orchestrating events in your favor. Hill insisted that this transformation was not mystical or supernatural in the sense of violating natural laws. On the contrary, it was the natural result of working in harmony with higher mental and spiritual laws that most people ignore or violate. It's like learning to use electricity. Electricity has always existed, but only those who understood its laws and learned to work with them could harness its tremendous power. The same is true of the power of prayer. It has always been available, but only those who understand its principles and apply them correctly experience its extraordinary results. Let me now share with you one of the most revolutionary concepts Hill taught about prayer. The idea that you are always praying, whether you are aware of it or not. Your dominant thoughts, habitual emotions, repeated words, and recurring mental images, all of these constitute your real and constant prayer to the universe. The question is not if you are praying, but what the content of your prayers is. If you spend your day complaining, criticizing, fearing, doubting, and worrying, you are constantly praying for more situations that justify complaint, criticism, fear, doubt, and worry. If you spend your day giving thanks, praising, trusting, believing, and expecting good, you are constantly praying for more situations that justify gratitude, praise, trust, belief, and positive expectation. You cannot separate your formal prayer life from your daily mental and emotional life. They are one and the same. This means that the real work of effective prayer is not only the minutes you spend in formal prayer, morning and night, although those moments are crucial as anchors and focal points. The real work is monitoring and directing your thoughts and emotions throughout the entire day. It's catching every negative thought before it takes root. It's redirecting every destructive emotion into constructive channels. It's speaking words that align with your desires instead of words that contradict them. Hill observed that most people undermine their own prayers through their negative self-talk and careless daily conversations. They pray in the morning for prosperity and then spend the rest of the day saying, "I never have enough money," or "things are really tough financially." They pray for health and then spend the day complaining about their physical problems and predicting they'll get worse. They pray for harmonious relationships and then spend the day criticizing and judging those around them. Do you see the devastating contradiction? Your casual words are canceling your formal prayers. Your habitual emotions are sabotaging your carefully crafted affirmations. And the subconscious mind and infinite intelligence respond not to your temporary intentions, but to your dominant and persistent patterns. That's why Hill insisted so strongly on the necessity of constant mental self-discipline. It's not optional, it's absolutely essential. He taught a simple but powerful technique for developing this self-discipline. Whenever you catch yourself thinking, feeling, or saying something that contradicts your declared desires, stop immediately. Acknowledge the thought or feeling without judgment, but don't feed it. Then deliberately replace it with its constructive opposite. If you find yourself thinking, "I'll never achieve this," stop and consciously replace it with, "I'm on the right path, and every day I'm getting closer to my goal." Do this consistently, without exception. and gradually you'll be reprogramming your mind to pray constantly in the direction of your desires. Napoleon Hill also made fascinating discoveries about the role of imagination in effective prayer. He identified two types of imagination: synthetic imagination, which reorganizes existing ideas and concepts into new combinations, and creative imagination, which produces something truly new and original through direct connection with infinite intelligence. The most powerful prayer, he taught, engages both kinds of imagination. When you pray, you shouldn't just repeat words mechanically. You must create vivid, detailed mental images of your desires already manifested. Use your synthetic imagination to build specific scenes of what your life will look like when your prayers are answered. See yourself living in that new reality. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, experience the emotions. The more real you can make that imaginative experience, the more powerful your prayer becomes. But Hill went even further. He said that during a state of deep prayer, you must also open yourself to creative imagination, allowing inspirations and original insights to flow from infinite intelligence into your consciousness. Often, while visualizing your desires, entirely new and unexpected ideas will arise in your mind, ideas you could never have conceived through ordinary logic. These are direct gifts from infinite intelligence, answers to your prayers in the form of creative guidance. Edison, Ford, Carnegie, and all the great innovators Hill studied reported such experiences. They would be in deep prayer, fully focused on their desires and challenges, when suddenly a complete solution would flash into their awareness, often appearing as if from nowhere. They hadn't reasoned their way to it step by step. It simply arrived, complete and perfect, as if someone had placed it directly into their minds. This is creative imagination in action, and it is one of the most powerful ways infinite intelligence responds to the prayers of those who have cultivated the ability to receive it. But you must be prepared. Keep a notebook nearby during prayer to immediately record any insight that arises, because such inspirations are fleeting. If you don't capture them at once, they will vanish like forgotten dreams. Hill also revealed something that can completely transform your understanding of time and the manifestation of prayers. He taught that in the mental and spiritual plane, where prayer operates, there is no time as we know it in the physical world. When you pray with true faith, your desire is instantly fulfilled in the invisible realm. The only reason there's a delay between your prayer and its physical manifestation is that the physical world is denser and slower than the mental realm. Think of it as the difference between creating something in your mind and building it with your hands. In your mind, you can instantly imagine a complete house with all its details. But constructing that house physically takes months or years, because you must work with physical materials that obey the laws of physics. Similarly, your prayer instantly creates a mental form of your desire, but the manifestation of that form in the physical world requires time for circumstances, people, and events to rearrange themselves accordingly. The mistake most people make is judging the effectiveness of their prayers based solely on immediate physical evidence. They pray today and expect to see results tomorrow, and when they don't, they conclude that prayer doesn't work or that they don't deserve to have their prayers answered. But Hill taught that you must maintain unwavering faith, even in the total absence of physical evidence, because true creation has already taken place on the invisible plane. It's only a matter of time before it becomes visible. He compared this to the process of pregnancy. When a woman becomes pregnant, there is no immediate visible evidence. For weeks, maybe months, no one can outwardly see that a new being is being formed. But that doesn't mean nothing is happening. On the contrary, a miraculous process of creation is occurring in the invisible, and at the appointed time, the baby will be born into the visible world. Your prayers work the same way. They initiate a gestation process in the invisible, and you must nurture that gestation with continuous faith until the moment of birth arrives. This understanding frees you from the anxiety and impatience that destroy so many prayers. You don't need to constantly check whether your prayers are being answered. You don't need to be desperate for signs. You simply continue praying, maintaining your faith, acting when guidance comes, and trusting that the invisible process is unfolding perfectly, even if you can't yet see evidence of it. Napoleon Hill made it clear that true prayer also involves an element of surrender. This might seem contradictory to the emphasis on confident declaration and unwavering faith, but in reality, they are complementary. Yes, you must declare your desires with clarity and conviction. Yes, you must visualize them as already fulfilled. But after doing all this, you must surrender the how and the when to infinite intelligence. Many people sabotage their prayers by trying to control every detail of how their desires must manifest. They pray for financial prosperity, but insist it must come through a specific promotion at their current job. They pray for a loving partner, but have a rigid and limited list of qualities that person must have. They pray for health, but only accept certain types of treatment. This rigidity blocks the infinite possibilities through which infinite intelligence could answer their prayers in ways far greater than they imagined. Hill taught that you must be absolutely clear about what you want, but completely flexible about how it will come to you. Declare your ultimate goal, but allow infinite intelligence, who sees and knows far more than your limited conscious mind, to orchestrate events and circumstances in the most beneficial way possible. Often, your prayers will be answered in ways you never imagined, through paths you would never have considered, bringing blessings even greater than what you asked for. He told the story of a man who prayed for years for success in a specific business. He worked hard, had faith, did everything right, but the business failed. The man was devastated, feeling his prayers had not been heard. But 3 months later, through a contact he had made during that failed business, he was invited into a completely different opportunity that led him to far greater success than he ever could have achieved in the original venture. In retrospect, he realized that the apparent failure was actually the answer to his prayer. Infinite intelligence knew he was on the wrong path and orchestrated events, including the failure of that business, to redirect him to the right one. But he was only able to recognize this because he maintained his faith even in the face of apparent failure and remained open to new possibilities. This is a profound lesson Hill repeated constantly. Trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. Trust the wisdom of infinite intelligence, even when your plans fall apart. Trust that you are being guided to something better, even when everything seems to be going wrong. This kind of trust is not passivity or resignation. It is an active form of faith that allows you to keep acting, learning, and growing without being paralyzed by the need to control every outcome. Hill also discovered that there is a specific emotional quality that makes prayer exponentially more powerful: love. He wasn't speaking of superficial sentimentality or romantic emotion, but of that universal love that recognizes the fundamental unity of all life. When your prayers are imbued with genuine love, not only for yourself or your loved ones, but for all humanity and all creation, something extraordinary happens. This universal love dissolves the barriers of the separate ego and allows you to tune into the higher frequencies of infinite intelligence. It's as if love were the native language of the universe. And when you speak this language in your prayers, you are understood and answered in deeper ways. The most powerful prayers Hill witnessed in his research were always those that included not only personal requests, but a genuine desire to contribute to the well-being of others and to the elevation of humanity. He observed that the most successful people he studied were also the most generous and compassionate. This was no coincidence. Their success flowed naturally from their expanded consciousness, which included the good of others in their prayers and intentions. Andrew Carnegie, for example, dedicated most of his fortune to building public libraries because he believed that access to knowledge could uplift millions of people. This expansive vision was integrated into his daily prayers, and it was one of the reasons why infinite intelligence blessed him with such great abundance. Napoleon Hill taught that you should include in your daily prayers not only your personal desires, but also intentions for the greater good. Pray for world peace. Pray for the healing of the sick. Pray for the prosperity of your community. Pray for the wisdom of leaders. Pray for the spiritual awakening of humanity. When you expand your consciousness in this way, you become a channel for immense benevolent forces, and those forces return to you multiplied. Hill also spoke about what he called scientific prayer, which combined spiritual principles with an understanding of mental laws. He explained that prayer works through definite and predictable laws, just like electricity or gravity. When you learn these laws and work consciously with them, you obtain consistent results. The main laws he identified are the law of belief. You receive what you truly believe you will receive. not what you superficially wish for or vaguely hope for. Your deep subconscious belief determines your results. The law of emotion. Thoughts charged with intense emotion have infinitely greater power than cold, dispassionate thoughts. The law of repetition. Thoughts and emotions consistently repeated imprint themselves on the subconscious mind and manifest in external reality. The law of visualization. Vivid and detailed mental images create magnetic patterns that attract corresponding physical manifestations. The law of action. Prayer must be accompanied by actions that demonstrate your faith and create the conditions for manifestation. When you consciously combine all these laws in your prayer practice, when you pray with genuine belief, intense emotion, consistent repetition, vivid visualization, and follow it all with appropriate action, you are working with the science of prayer, and your results will be as certain as those of any well-conducted scientific experiment. Hill also revealed something surprising about the relationship between prayer and gratitude. He discovered that gratitude is not merely an appropriate response when your prayers are answered. It is actually one of the most powerful activators of the manifestation process itself. When you cultivate a constant attitude of gratitude, you are sending a clear message to the universe that you recognize and appreciate the blessings you already have, and that magnetic attitude attracts even more blessings. Think of the difference between someone who is constantly complaining and focusing on what is missing versus someone who is constantly giving thanks and focusing on what they already have. The first person is continuously praying for more lack, more problems, more reasons to complain. The second is continuously praying for more abundance, more solutions, more reasons to give thanks. And the universe responds according to the dominant vibration each one is emitting. Hill recommended creating what he called a gratitude journal. Every night, before your evening prayers, you should write down at least 10 things you are grateful for that day. Not just the big, obvious ones, but also the small blessings that usually go unnoticed. The nourishing breakfast, the clean water to drink, the smile of a stranger, the cool breeze, the body that functions, the mind that thinks. The more you train your attention to recognize blessings, the more blessings you find, and the more powerful your prayers become. There is also an aspect of prayer that Hill considered crucial, but that is rarely discussed: the prayer of self-reflection and personal growth. He taught that you should not pray only for external things, but also for internal transformation. Pray for wisdom to make better decisions. Pray for courage to face your fears. Pray for discipline to keep your commitments. Pray for compassion to better understand others. Pray for humility to continue learning. Pray for strength to overcome your weaknesses. This prayer for personal growth is especially powerful because it is entirely under your control. You don't need to wait for external circumstances to change. You can begin changing internally right away, and as you change internally, your external circumstances naturally begin to transform to reflect your new consciousness. A man who sincerely prays for patience and consciously works to develop it will find fewer and fewer situations that irritate him. Not because the situations have changed, but because he has changed. Napoleon Hill also emphasized the importance of what he called the mental environment for effective prayer. He observed that it is extremely difficult to maintain a powerful prayer practice if you are constantly surrounded by negativity, criticism, and pessimism. The people you spend time with, the programs you watch, the books you read, the conversations you have, all of these form your mental environment and deeply influence the quality of your thoughts and emotions. Hill advised people to be extremely selective about their mental environment. Surround yourself with people who support your dreams, not those who criticize them. Read inspiring and educational literature that elevates your consciousness, not sensationalist material that feeds fear and negativity. Engage in conversations that expand your vision of possibilities, not those centered on gossip and complaints. Listen to music that uplifts your spirit, not sounds that depress your energy. This doesn't mean denying reality or isolating yourself completely. It means being conscious and intentional about the influences you allow into your mind, because each of these influences is either strengthening or weakening your prayers. If you spend 1 hour in deep prayer in the morning, but then spend 8 hours absorbing negative news, toxic conversations, and destructive entertainment, you are undoing all the positive work you did. Hill also made profound discoveries about the role of persistence in prayer. He observed that many people give up praying just moments before their prayers would have been answered. They pray for days, weeks, maybe months, without seeing visible results. Their faith begins to waver. They start to doubt, and eventually they stop praying, concluding that it doesn't work. What they don't realize is that each prayer was accumulating strength, building momentum in the invisible, and if they had persisted just a little longer, they would have witnessed the manifestation they sought. He compared this to the process of boiling water. You can heat water from 20 degrees to 99 degrees, but it remains liquid. Only when you reach 100 degrees does it suddenly turn to vapor. All the heat applied before reaching the boiling point was not wasted. It was necessary. But if you give up at 99 degrees, frustrated because nothing seems to be happening, you will never see the transformation. Your prayers work the same way. There is what Hill called the critical mass of prayer. You must accumulate a sufficient amount of focused mental and emotional energy before physical manifestation occurs. Each sincere prayer adds to this accumulation. But if you give up before reaching critical mass, all that energy dissipates, and you must start over again. The persistence Hill preached was not blind stubbornness or mechanical repetition. It was faith renewed constantly, commitment reaffirmed daily, even in the total absence of physical evidence. It was the willingness to keep praying, visualizing, feeling, and acting as if your desire were already manifested, no matter how long it took. This quality of relentless persistence was, according to Hill, one of the most common characteristics among all the great achievers he studied. Thomas Edison persisted through 10,000 failed experiments. Lincoln lost countless elections before becoming president. Ford saw his first automobile ventures completely collapse, but none of them gave up on their prayers, their vision, or their faith. They understood the principle of persistence in prayer, and it was that persistence that eventually turned their dreams into tangible reality. Napoleon Hill also explored the fascinating relationship between prayer and what are called miracles. He did not believe in miracles as supernatural violations of natural law. Rather, he saw miracles as manifestations of higher laws that most people are unaware of. Prayer, he taught, is the means by which you can consciously work with these higher laws to produce results that appear miraculous to those who do not understand the principles involved. A sick person who prays with absolute faith and is suddenly healed is not experiencing a violation of natural laws. They are experiencing the operation of higher mental and spiritual laws that have power over the physical body. A person in severe financial difficulty who prays sincerely and suddenly receives an unexpected opportunity that transforms their situation is not receiving arbitrary divine favor. They are reaping the natural results of aligning their consciousness with the frequency of prosperity through prayer. Hill said that when you understand the principles of scientific prayer and apply them consistently, you become a worker of miracles, not in a mystical sense, but in the sense that you can consciously create extraordinary results in your life through the application of higher laws. You don't need to beg for miracles. You can create them deliberately through properly understood and practiced prayer. One of the most practical and immediately applicable aspects of Hill's teaching on prayer involves what he called the harmonious prayer circle. He discovered that when two or more people with similar or complementary desires meet regularly to pray together in perfect harmony of purpose, the power of their combined prayers is multiplied exponentially, not by simple addition, but by geometric multiplication. He advised people to form small prayer groups, ideally 3 to 7 people, who would meet regularly, perhaps once a week, to pray together for their individual and collective goals. These meetings should follow a specific format. Begin with a moment of silent meditation to harmonize everyone's energy. Then each person would briefly share their intentions and goals, after which everyone would pray together, visualizing the success of each member, and end with affirmations of gratitude and certainty. The power of these harmonious prayer circles is extraordinary, because you are not merely adding the faith of several people, you are creating a unified field of consciousness that has access to dimensions of power that individuals alone rarely reach. It is like the difference between individual voices and a harmonious choir. The choir is not only louder, it creates something qualitatively different, something that touches people on levels that individual voices cannot. Hill provided specific guidelines for these groups. All members should have clearly defined and written goals. Everyone should be genuinely committed to each other's success, not just their own. There should be absolute trust and confidentiality within the group. Criticism, doubt, and negativity could not be tolerated in the meetings. The focus should be exclusively constructive, visualizing success and celebrating progress, no matter how small. He told impressive stories of individuals who had struggled alone for years without significant results, but who, upon joining harmonious prayer circles, experienced dramatic changes within weeks or months. Something about the combination of individual faiths in perfect harmony triggered forces that transformed situations that had seemed impossible to change. Napoleon Hill also made important distinctions between superstitious prayer and scientific prayer. Superstitious prayer is based on fear, external dependence, and belief in arbitrary favor from capricious powers. The superstitious person prays hoping that some external entity will randomly decide to grant their request. They see themselves as powerless, at the mercy of forces they cannot control or influence. Scientific prayer, in contrast, is based on understanding laws, self-empowerment, and the recognition of inner power. The person who prays scientifically understands that they are working with definite principles that produce predictable results. They see themselves as an active co-creator with infinite intelligence, not as a helpless beggar. They know their prayers are effective not because they are pleading for favor, but because they are correctly applying higher mental and spiritual laws. This difference in perspective is crucial. Superstitious prayer keeps you in a position of weakness and dependency. Scientific prayer places you in a position of power and creative partnership. The first perpetuates the sense of being a powerless victim of circumstances. The second cultivates the consciousness of a conscious creator of your reality. Hill was very clear: infinite. Intelligence is not a capricious monarch who arbitrarily decides who will be blessed and who will be punished. It is an impersonal and universal law that responds according to the quality and intensity of your dominant thoughts and emotions. Just as gravity operates equally for everyone without favoritism, the laws of prayer operate equally for all who understand and apply them correctly. One of Hill's final and perhaps most profound teachings on prayer involves the concept of being the prayer rather than merely saying the prayer. He explained that the highest stage of prayer is not an act you perform at specific moments, but a state of consciousness you maintain continuously. You become a living vibration of that which you desire to manifest. If you desire peace, you become peace, not only during your formal moments of prayer, but in every interaction, every thought, every emotion. If you desire prosperity, you become prosperity, radiating abundance in your attitude, your words, your actions. If you desire love, you become love, expressing kindness, compassion, and acceptance in everything you do. When you reach this state, you no longer need to ask. You simply attract automatically that which you are. Life responds to your essential vibration, not to your occasional words. You become a walking magnet for everything that matches your dominant frequency. This is the mastery of prayer, the ultimate goal of all inner work, to become the living embodiment of your highest desires. Hill observed that the true spiritual masters and the greatest achievers he studied had reached this state. They no longer needed to spend hours in formal prayer because their entire lives were a prayer. Every act was an affirmation of their principles. Every word was charged with conscious intention. Every thought was deliberately aligned with their vision. They had become what they sought, and therefore, inevitably attracted corresponding manifestations. This is the invitation Napoleon Hill offers to each of us through his teachings on prayer. To transcend prayer as an occasional activity and rise into prayer as a permanent state of being. Begin where you are, with the basic techniques you can apply immediately. Establish a daily practice of morning and evening prayer. Write your goals clearly and turn them into powerful affirmations. Visualize with intense emotion. Cultivate gratitude. Forgive completely. Monitor your thoughts throughout the day. Surround yourself with positive influences. Form or join a harmonious prayer circle. Persist without wavering, no matter how long it takes. And then, gradually, as you practice, as you experience small manifestations that confirm the principles, as your faith grows through personal evidence, you will begin to transform. Prayer will cease to be something you do and will become something you are. And when that happens, when you reach that elevated state of consciousness, you will discover that you have access to unlimited reservoirs of creative power. You will find that you can manifest your desires with increasing ease. You will find that seemingly miraculous synchronicities become common in your life. You will find that doors open where once there were only walls. You will find that people appear at exactly the right moment to help you. You will find that creative ideas flow abundantly. You will find that obstacles mysteriously dissolve. You will find that your life becomes an extraordinary adventure of continuous growth and constant manifestation. This is the power of prayer according to Napoleon Hill. It is not a vague promise or a pious hope. It is a proven scientific system through the experience of thousands of successful people over decades. It is an exact science of personal transformation and conscious manifestation. It is the secret of secrets, the master key that opens every door, the supreme power available to every human being who is willing to understand and apply it. So the question is not whether prayer works. Science and experience confirm unequivocally that it does. The only real question is, are you willing to learn the correct principles and apply them consistently? Are you willing to invest the time and energy to develop this supreme skill? Are you willing to transform your mind, your habits, your entire consciousness? Because if you are truly willing to commit yourself completely to the practice of scientific prayer as Hill taught it, then there are no limits to what you can achieve. There is no dream too great, no goal impossible. The entire universe conspires in favor of those who pray with understanding, faith, and unwavering persistence.